Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this webinar today presented by the ALS Society of Quebec. My name is Lee Stevens, and I'm a psychosocial counselor here at the Society, and I'll be your moderator for the event today. We're presenting a webinar called Planning a Trip That Meets Your Needs, and it's with great pleasure that I introduce our speaker today, Ms. Isabelle Ducharme. Ms. Ducharme is chair of the board at Keroul, a Quebec-based organization whose mission is to make tourism and culture more accessible for people with limited physical abilities. She's also an administrator on the board of directors at Women Network Canada. Before we start the actual presentation, there are a few. Madame Isabelle Ducharme.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me to be doing this presentation today. Before I start, I'd like to share a little anecdote. Maybe a week or so ago, somebody that attended the webinar last year called me because she wanted to share with you and anybody that will be listening that after listening to the webinar last year, she decided to plan a trip with her husband. And they went to Gaspésie, and they came back with wonderful memories. And she just wanted to tell everyone that it is important to live your dreams and to really decide if you're looking at traveling now, do it and make sure that you get to do it and bring back those wonderful memories that you can have of the loved one or the person that you're maybe may it be a friend or whoever you want to travel with, so that when you're not together, you can at least share remember these wonderful moments. So, as mentioned before, I am chair of the board of Keroul. So part of my presentation will be on what the organization can do for you, but we'll mostly be talking about how to prepare for traveling when you have any type of limitations. And as you will see on my first slide, there is different pictures that you can look at and to show you that traveling or doing touristic activities means different things for different people. It can include looking for lodging options, like a hotel where you see that there is a man opening the door for the person in a wheelchair. It could also mean that you want to go outside and visit things. Here I'm at the beach in Barcelona, but it can also just mean that you want to be doing local activities like this one because I am in Montreal. This is at the top of the Olympic Stadium. So it can mean many things, and as you will see, there are many options, but you just need to plan ahead of time. So first of all, just about the organization I represent. It's named Keroul, and it's a combination of Quebec and Roll. And basically, it was founded in 1979 by André Leclerc, who is still the acting director, but will be retiring this year after 40 years of leading the organization. It's an organization that was funded to improve the accessibility of tourism and culture in the province of Quebec. In the beginning, it was basically because Mr. Leclerc decided he wanted to move out of the city, and he had many problems, not just with built environment, but also with the attitude of people thinking that because he had cerebral paralysis, that he also had an intellectual deficiency. So he founded the organization to help improve the accessibility in general in the province. We are lucky that we have a very good relation with the Ministry of Tourism here in the province of Quebec since 1987. So we are one of the rare provinces the only province in the country of Canada, but also one of the rare places around the world where we have a very good relationship with the Minister of Tourism, and nobody can talk about their accessibility in their establishment if they are in a touristic or cultural establishment without having been evaluated by our organization, and we give them we then decide according to our evaluation if they are accessible, partially accessible, or non-accessible, and then we publish it in our different websites and brochures that we create. Keroul is an organization that works with the industry. We work with businesses, we work with government representatives, but what is most important to you, I would imagine, is that we promote the accessibility of establishments that are in the province of Quebec and that are available to people with disabilities. And we do training so that when you go to different venues or establishments or parks in the region of Quebec, people in contact with the clientele will have been trained and be more aware and comfortable in greeting people with disabilities and giving services to people with disabilities. The first tool that could be helpful to you that we create is a brochure magazine that comes out 4 times a year. And this magazine, unfortunately, is only available in French for now, but it will give you ideas of where you can travel to. So you will have travel stories from me and other travelers from here and around the world. And each time we will say where we stayed, what transportation we used, what activities we did. So that will help you maybe plan a future travel. And you will also find different news on new things that would happen around the world, and of course what Keroul does, what's new in our activities, but also what is new in anything that we hear that is of interest around the world. The other thing that will be definitely useful to future travelers is our website, because of course it is more readily available to anybody, whether you are in the province of Quebec or anywhere in Canada or outside. It's a website that has a section that is, I'm sorry, I realized that I didn't change the picture, but our website is bilingual, so you can definitely click on the English, the English link, and it will give you all the information in English. And it's basically on the lower left, you can see there's travelers services, and in that section, you will have information that can help you, like links for activities in the province of Canada, but also the activities that we will have found anywhere around the world and that we can validate that is well done and useful to people with all types of limitations. You can make the search in accordance to your limitations, whether it be that you need you're getting around in a wheelchair, or you have a visual impairment, or others. Also, there's also different links to help you find if you need somebody to travel with you. So you will have a different names of either organization or people that are that can help you accompany you on your travel. So definitely a lot of information that can help you in your future travel. The other tool that can help you is if you want to travel in the province of Quebec. It's called Quebec for All. It's a website, and there's more than 1,800 establishments that have been certified either accessible or partially accessible, so that you will find them. And then when you click on a region, there are all the regions are represented on the website. And once you click on the region, you can decide on which activity you want to do. And once you click on the activity, you also find what else you can do around that activity. So it's very useful. There's also a lot of little videos showing you the activities, and there's also the option of planning your next trip, and therefore you can print it, and you can also look at we will have prepared different options. Let's say you're somebody that likes to go into the you like to do museum visits, you like to do outdoor activities, we will have prepared some itineraries in accordance to what you like and what we think you might like. The other way that you can also uh, have ideas on traveling to the province of Quebec is through the brochure that comes out once a year. And it gives you what's new on the Quebec for All website and probably new ideas on what you can do in the different regions. Uh, and we also have information on what could be of interest. This time we'll have information on this edition. We have also information on transportation, travel services, and outdoor adventure. So there's definitely a lot of things that you can find in there. And all of these, this brochure and the other brochure that I mentioned before that comes out 4 times a year, you can receive by either um, calling or sending an email at our office, and you can definitely receive it without any problem. So why tourism? I think there are many reasons to choose tourism. Myself, I don't think I mentioned before, but I am a person with a disability myself. I had a car accident in 1988, and I am a person that is quadriplegic. Therefore, I travel with, I get around with a motorized wheelchair, and I have traveled around the world in many places from, just here around the province of Quebec, here, Canada, States, but also China and Australia and different areas around the world. But I don't think I could have gone through the rehab period that I did for 2 years without knowing that I could still do tourism maybe a bit differently from what I did before. I can't travel alone anymore, but I can still travel, and I'm still um, an avid traveler and a very um, I, that's one of the reasons that I like to do these webinars, because I think tourism is definitely a good way to change your mindset, to just get out of the difficulties of the daily life and not think about the illness and not think about the bills and not think about all these things that are on a daily basis sometimes keeping us down or keeping us from wanting to go out. It's definitely a way to energize yourself. You can discover new people, discover new areas, and that doesn't mean that you have to go to China, Australia. It could just be to stay around your city, but go and visit as a tourist. Sometimes we have the most wonderful activities around our city, and we don't even realize because it's so close to us that we forget that it even exists. It also is a way to open up to others and find out about the way other people live and to meet new people, sometimes make new friends and exchange on the way people are living and how we can impact us and maybe even change some of the ways we do things. And of course, we come back with wonderful memories that we can share. But just don't forget that once you talk about tourism and getting out of the house like any other time, it is getting out of your comfort zone. That means that you have to be prepared that some things might not be going exactly the way you wanted them to go. But there's always ways to adjust, and there's always way to make sure that it still is a good memory. So be a tourist at home. I just mentioned the importance um, of tourism in my life, but being a tourist in my city is also very important to me. It's a way when I first wanted to be a tourist, do touristic activities after my accident, especially most of you, I would imagine, have new situations. It's a good way when you explore local activities to see what you like now. Is it different from what you liked 6 months ago or 2 years ago, or whenever your last touristic activity was? Some people forget that sometimes we, just by getting older, our tastes change. So maybe before you really enjoyed outdoor activities and you're not sure if you're going to like them anymore, well, the best way to test it is to really go out there and do it. And the best way to do it and not be too disappointed is if you do it not too far from home. And that way, for sure, if you realize that you don't like the cold anymore, it's better to do it if you just went for a day trip close to home than going on a snow slope and for a week long trip and realizing after the first day that you don't want to go outside for the rest of the week. The same thing with going to the beach. And maybe before you like going and laying down on the sun, but maybe your condition now makes it that you can't handle that heat. So it's a good thing to know by going out and staying in the sun in your area rather than taking that week or 2 week long trip away. It's also a good way to explore. I mean, you can explore many different aspects of the touristic activities. That's why I put pictures of somebody outside in the winter. I put a little family going to visit a museum, and also I put the picture of somebody that is just somebody that has a visual impairment and is going into this garden that where you can taste and smell, and they can explain to you what you can do with these plants, and that's in the botanical garden here in Montreal. So there's definitely many things that you can test and see what you like before you decide to go on the long trip. So, of course, I'm talking about a stay in Quebec, but that could be a stay in your local area. And why? Well, one of the reasons is to encourage the economy of your region, so that you make sure that way the accessibility of your region becomes more and more accessible. Because if lots of times people become accessible and they tell us, well, we don't understand, we don't see people with disabilities, and we became accessible. But of course, if we their job is to make sure that it's known, but our job is to go to these places when we know that they become accessible, so that maybe that will make it that one museum gets accessible and the next museum is not accessible, and they will see all these people coming to visit, and they'll say, well, I want to become accessible too because don't want to miss out on these visitors. So it's a good way to stimulate the local accessibility in your area. But it's also a good way to identify your needs for one night. So if you're going away for outside of your city, make sure if it's the first time that it's only for 1 or 2 nights at the most. And that way you can take notes about things that you enjoy, the things that you miss. Like maybe maybe you left your meditation at home, and if it's only for the weekend, then it's fine. You probably get to the local drugstore and find what you need. But if you went on a trip for Europe for 3 weeks, then it might be a bit more difficult. Or maybe after the first night you realize that you don't sleep well if you don't have your own pillow. Well, it's better if you left for a weekend rather than if you left for 2 or 3 weeks. So these little things that you can take notes of, and next time you leave, then you'll know not to forget these things. Or maybe I can share another thing that happened to me. Once I always have to travel with my the charger for the battery for my motorized wheelchair, and I left it by the door of the house to be sure I don't forget it. And of course, I get to Florida, and where is my charger? It's right by the door at home. So at least I put it down as a checkpoint for when next time I leave on a trip. But I also at least had planned for in case something happened and I knew the name of a place where I could go and rent one. But still, it's no fun. So if we get in the preparing your stay, I put down 4 major points: planning, reservation, luggage. I think it's very important, and cruise, because it's definitely one of the easiest way to travel for anybody that is a bit nervous about traveling. So if we go into the planning, the first thing that we have to do is the research, of course. We have to define what we want, what are the objectives of your trip. Are you going, are you with, is it a trip because you want to relax and lay on a beach? Is it a trip because you want to do one great adventure? Is it a trip because you want to visit all the museums in Rome? You know, think about it before you even start doing your research. What type of a trip are you looking for? And that will definitely influence which destination you will choose. Um, if you have absolutely no idea which destination or what type of a trip you want, but you know that you want to go out outside of your city or your country, I would definitely tell you that one of the things that you can think about is going to a destination where there were Olympic Games, because therefore there were Paralympic Games, and they have to become more accessible. So that way you know that can be one of your options of looking into what destination you choose. Also, definitely think about the type of budget that you have. If it's unlimited, we're so happy for you. But most of us, we have to think about the budget. There are many ways to look at it. Are you going to be traveling with just the person, with a friend or your spouse or somebody that is really close to you? Are you going to hire somebody to come with you? And one of the options that you can think about is definitely if you need somebody to take care of you. One of the options is that you can also decide that the caregiver or the person that's if it's only to get you in and out of bed or for just a few services during the day, there's definitely a way to make it a bit cheaper on you rather than paying for the travel. You can just hire somebody from an agency at the where you're going. But there's definitely important to think about what type of a budget you have. You can also think about consulting other travelers with disabilities. If you don't know anybody, because I know a lot of people call me to see, have you been to this place and how did you do it, and what are your best tips for that destination. But if not, there's a lot of blogs going on that are done by people with disabilities, and they usually are good enough to tell you that they are in a manual wheelchair or they have if they have an illness or if they have something that is similar to you, then you can see what destinations they went to and how well it went and what were the issues, and then you can decide on your next trip in accordance to this information. You can also decide to do the research yourself to begin with. I would definitely recommend going to a travel agent. We did train travel agents, so you can call Keroul and ask for the name of the travel agents, or you can go on our website and find out the names. But it's a good idea to do some research on your own before, and maybe go to the travel agent to say, listen, I looked into it, and I think this destination is definitely of interest for me. I think they have some accessibility, but if not, like I said, the travel agent can also do this research for you. And just a tip that I find very important is if you have a travel that is organized, usually they will tell you if it's not organized by an organization of people with disabilities or let's say an organization like ALS, um, they usually will have everything organized for the transportation and the lodging and the activities. But let's say it's a cruise, they probably don't have the information about accessibility or the information about medical assistance. So it's always good to have the name of a local organization where you're going that knows the information or that will most likely have the information in case of a wheelchair that breaks down or in case of some medical issue or anything that you might have forgotten at home.
that you need to be replaced, or you needed to bring diapers and you didn't bring enough and things like that. So keep that in mind to write down the name of a resource that can help you. In your planning, there's always important. Sometimes people think about the plane going to the destination, and they think about the lodging, but they don't think about the in between. So just for local transportation in North America, coach and train usually have room for at least one person in a wheelchair. You have a picture here of the Canadian, the VRL train, where you can see I'm sitting down and there's a little table in front of me, and that way I can eat and drink, and you have the service that comes through the train. I know Amtrak sometimes have it differently. Sometimes you have a table, sometimes doesn't. But here in Canada, there is a one person, one fare law. So if you're traveling inside the country of Canada with a Canadian, either a Canadian airline or a Canadian coach or train, the person that comes with you travels for free as long as there's a doctor's paper filled out that says you need that person to be traveling with you in order to travel. Also, if you have if you go in all the major cities now, they have the public transportation. The regular buses have the ramp at the front or at the back to help you in and out of the bus. If you have the right to the paratransit transport in your area, just know that you can also have the paratransit transport in the area you're going to, whether it be here in the province of Quebec, but it's also good for the rest of Canada and it's good for the States. I've tried it, even though I'm from Montreal, I tried it in Vancouver, Canada, and I tried it in New York and in Vegas, and it worked. So you just have to call in advance and say that you're visiting for a week or two or whatever the time you're traveling for, and it will give you a temporary number so that you can use the transport. And that way, you're maybe doing it a little bit. It might be a little easier on you because the paratransit will know where to drop you off at the right door and where to pick you up and things like that. So it's definitely a cheaper way of traveling and easier than having to try and find your own way around the city. I also put a picture of the adapted taxis. As you can see, here it's a side entrance. We in the province of Quebec are one of the few areas that I know of in North America that have the side entrance. Most places have the rear entrance. Personally, I prefer the side entrance. But just so that if you're from the province of Quebec, know that it's not the way it is around the other areas. And if you're from outside of Quebec, just know that if you come in the province, it's the side entrance that is being used. And finally, there is also the possibility of renting your vehicle. If you're driving yourself, you can have it a regular vehicle. In most major rental companies have the adapted hand control for people that can drive it themselves. So you don't have to carry it with you. But if you're like me and you need to be in a minivan with a ramp, a lot of companies, there's a company, I can't remember the one in the States, but Wheelchair Getaway has vehicles in a lot of major cities. In the province of Quebec here, we have two companies, one that is in Montreal, but one that is bigger, and the discount company now in the province of Quebec can also offer minivan rental with the ramp on the side. And here is the big question that comes from a lot of people when I talk about my travels and getting around the world, plane transportation. So just to give you an idea, I put two pictures here. One of them, you can see the lady is about to be transferred into a small wheelchair. It's called a straight back, and you can see when from looking at it why. It's not the most comfortable. It's just the most useful way of getting from your own wheelchair to the seat of the aircraft. So just keep that in mind. You will never be able to say, well, there are some trials right now, some trials to see options of having somebody stay in their wheelchair, but it's still in the prototype and it's not very, um, it's not, I don't think it's for tomorrow that we're going to see that in all aircrafts. So keep in mind that you will be transferred into a regular seat like all other passengers, and that you're always going to be the first one in the plane and the last one out. And it's not because they want to hide you, or it's not because they don't want to. It's really just a matter of security. People are always, if you've ever taken a flight before, you know that people are always in a hurry to get in and in a hurry to get out. So it's just a way to either because you're a slow walker or because you need help transferring. They just want to make sure that it's done safely. They have the staff to help you if you need to be transferred into your seat. When you do your reservation, you absolutely have to mention right away that you have special needs. If you want to have the discounts because you need somebody to travel with you, you definitely have to fill out a medical form or anything that is specific to any needs that you might have that another passenger wouldn't have. You need a medical form to be filled out. Also, in what you have to think about the flight, your wheelchair will definitely be going under the seat, under the belly, in the belly of the aircraft. Anything that can be removed, they will ask and they will remove and it should be put in a bag. There's always an option. You can always ask to keep your wheelchair to the coast. Sometimes they will try and let you leave your wheelchair with the luggage and then be transferred into the airport wheelchair. But you can definitely ask to keep your wheelchair up to the aircraft door. But as you can see in the second picture, sometimes it's a smaller aircraft and it's in a country that has a smaller airport, and there's no possibility to keep your wheelchair up to the door, and then you'll be just taken up and down with their own wheelchair. You can also think about ahead of time what you prefer between a direct flight or a stopover. I prefer the direct flight exactly for the reason of not transferring many times into that small seat. But others will prefer to do the stopover either because it gets to be too painful for them when they stay too long in the same position. Sometimes it's for bladder control. So it's really up to you. You just have to think about it ahead of time. And as I said before, there is that one person, one fare, but just keep in mind it's only for Canadian travel with Canadian companies. But keep in mind as well that depending on when you travel, it could be cheaper to travel in a lower season. And also, always ask when you make a reservation if there are any discounts or special fares for people with disabilities, because other companies and even Canadian companies sometimes do have those lower fares or discounts for people with disabilities. So it's important to ask what is available at the time that you want to travel. Now, if we move on to accommodation, there's definitely the general accessibility to be looking at, but also the accessibility inside and outside of the hotel. So it's good to know that you can get inside the hotel, but are there options that are inside or outside the hotel? Like, is there a park? Is there attached to the hotel? Especially if you go in places like Vegas, or if you go in different areas where it's really a resort. Like if you go in the sun destination, sometimes it's nice to know if there's a pool, if there's a beach. Am I going to be able to be on the beach? Am I going to be able to be just on the side of the beach, or sometimes there's even 3 steps to go down to the beach. So you're going to be separated from the people you are traveling with. So you need to ask for more than just, can I get in and out of the hotel, but also uh, sometimes the dining room has 3 steps just because they find it's a nice setup, but you won't be able to have breakfast or any meal in that dining room. You're going to have to go outside all the time. So it's very important to check more than just, is your hotel accessible? You have to ask more questions. And also, in your questions that you're going to be asking, there's obviously questions about the room. I put a design here that we use to explain what needs to be done to make a room accessible. So it's more than just, can I get in, but it's also, will I have maneuver to enough room to maneuver beside the bed? Will the bed be at the right height? If you're somebody that transfers themselves into the bed, you want a lower bed. And the tendency now these days is to have these beds that are so high that it's difficult to transfer. So they can accommodate. If you didn't ask before, usually you can ask for the box spring to be removed or for the legs to be removed, but it can be a bit more complicated. So if you ask ahead of time, that can help you choose the right hotel. Or if you're somebody like me that uses a lift to get in and out of bed, then it's good. You're going to have to ask if it's a full board across the bed or if it's on legs. Because if it's a full board across, then you can't use the the lift to get in and out of the bed because it's going to be rolling under the bed. If you're like me again and you need the lift to get in and out of bed, right now I don't know of any hotels that have the lift provided inside the hotel, so I need to rent it when I travel. The only place I know of is the Bellagio in Vegas that has the ceiling lift. Sorry, and that way you can use it. And you don't need to rent the lift. You also need to check the bathroom. As you can see, we put a little design of a bathroom there. So when you call and they say that the bathroom is accessible, you also need to ask, for sure if you need the bars, the grab bars for the toilet, or if you need the grab bars for the shower or the bathtub. And when we say that the room is accessible, it doesn't mean that it is either a shower or a bath. So it's very important if you can only use the shower or the bath to ask what they have when they say it's an accessible room. And then if we keep on looking at accessibility, there's also the accessibility of the activities. And when you think about activities, then you think of what you like according to your taste. You're probably going to ask, are there accessible museums in the area? Are there accessible parks in the area? Or whatever it is that you usually like to do. But think also about what could be done in that area that maybe you don't know about. My best example is when I went to Australia. Once I got to a hotel room, I asked, what activities could I do here that is especially accessible? And they told me about a banana plantation that I didn't know about. I didn't even know they had banana plantation in Australia, and that they have the little train that visitors could use to really go through the plantation and know more about how it works. And it was accessible. They had a spot reserved for people in wheelchairs. So if you don't ask what you can do, then of course you won't find out. So always remember that either before, you need to do your research before you go, but it's always a good thing to ask once you get there. And of course, if you're like me and you'd like to eat and taste food, then it's always good to ask if there are any restaurants that are particularly accessible in the area that you are going to. It's always a good way to see how people. I especially like to go to local restaurants and ask, what restaurants are more used by visited by people that live in the area, and that way you really get the taste of what they like and how they cook the food, and it's really it's a sweet experience. Now, if we go into the second point, the reservation, the it's very important to think about reserving in advance. First of all, to get answers to your questions, because sometimes you call for a reservation and then you find out that there are block days or that there are maybe there is new measures or new forms to be filled out. And so if you didn't call in advance, maybe you're too late. Maybe this form needs to be filled out by your doctor, and you know how difficult it can be sometimes to get an appointment with a doctor. Or you also have different, whether it be in lodging or in transportation. Lots of times there's not that many options for accessibility. There might be just one or two rooms that are available and that are adapted to your special needs, or like I said before, there would be the whether it be the buses or the train. There's also one or two places available as well. So if you don't do it enough in advance, especially in the high season, then maybe there won't be any availability at the time that you want to reserve. And also, sometimes they will tell you, well, yeah, we do have discounts, but they only come once a year. And so if you took it, if you called and you wanted to leave the following week, uh, maybe it's too late and there you can't get any discounts. Or some of, I know that with the area here with the train, if you reserve a month or 6 weeks in advance, you can get really low rates. But if you reserve a week or two before, then you get the regular rates, and there's a big difference. So it's a good thing to really plan in advance and reserve and call in advance. When you do call to make your reservation, make sure that you prepare as much as you can, as much information as you can before you do your call, because the first thing you want to do is mention your limitations at the beginning. That way, if you need to be transferred to a specific department, they will do it right away. You won't have to tell your story twice or three times, and it will be noted right away. And if you have any special needs, you need to tell them right away as well. Whether it be you need help transferring into the aircraft seat, or you need help because the luggage is too heavy for you, or you're going to have a hard time picking it up. Whatever the special need might be, if you tell them in advance, they will make sure that the staff is available to help you. But if there's 10 of us that didn't say ahead of time that we need that help, then everybody's going to be delayed and nobody's going to be happy, and it's not going to be a good start for your travel. When you call, also, especially if it's for the train or the aircraft, the airline, they will ask you all sorts of questions about the equipment you travel with. So if it's regarding your wheelchair, they will know the type, the weight, the measures. If it's about the medication and allergies, they will also want to know the specifics of it. And if you have anything like insulin or anything that is out of the ordinary, is just not a pill, then they will ask, that if do you have a prescription from your doctor, the name, the size of everything. You need to travel with one bottle, with 6 bottles, and sometimes they will always already be able to tell you what kind of packaging you need to do to be able to carry it and things like that. So it's definitely a good thing to write that down before you make that call. And mention right away also if you need to be accompanied. Some people are fine once they're on the plane or once they're on their travel. But if you know that you need somebody, let's say you're somebody that can walk, but not a long stretch, then you need to say right away, well, I will need somebody to help me from when we drop the luggage to the aircraft. I need somebody to push me in a wheelchair, and they will make sure that there is somebody available. But it's going to be much easier if you set it ahead of time. Next thing, travel insurance. That's something that a lot of people ask about. Um, it's very case by case. I think everybody needs the basic insurance, like the travel, in case you need to cancel at the last minute, in case there is loss of luggage or anything that's very general. When it comes to um, the insurance regarding any illness or any problems that you will have once you're at your destination, it's really a case by case. I tried many companies to find out if there was one that was better than the other, and it's really different from one person to the other. The main thing that they usually say is that your situation has to be stable within the last 3 to 6 months, depending on your age, depending on your illness. There's so many clauses that I think the best thing is to really call yourself and explain your situation. The one thing that I found that is, I think is could be very interesting is that there are companies that specialize in finding the right insurance for you. So I put the name. There's a document that I prepared for you that is available. Unfortunately, for some reason, right now I couldn't find the English version, so you have the French version available for you. Uh, but anything that I told you today that would be linked to a phone number, a website, or anything like that, you will find in that document and help you prepare. And there is the name of a local company here in the province of Quebec that specializes in finding the right insurance regarding your travel and in accordance with your specific medical situation. But there's, as I said, there's not one solution. It's really case by case. If you want to travel, I mentioned before, I do the equipment rental every time because I find it easier than to travel with the equipment. But just keep in mind, if that's something that you don't mind, if there's more than one person traveling with you that can carry those devices with you, no, you can never be charged for extra luggage. So that includes any device like this that you would bring with you. And I wanted to mention that that little bench that you see on the side, that's usually what they provide in a hotel. So if you need something more stable when you go in the shower, something with a bath and everything, make sure you ask if they say that they have a bench in the shower or in the bath. That it's not one of those small benches, and that you will be okay with what they provide. You can always ask for pictures these days with the. It's a lot easier to know what they're talking about is the same thing that you're thinking about. And keep in mind that if you're not somebody that usually uses a wheelchair or a scooter, but you want to go and travel, maybe you want to go and visit an area where there's going to be a lot of walking to be done, you can rent these devices and they can be delivered to your hotel. Luggage, for me, is important for two reasons. The first is the regular luggage. As you can see, you put the same things that anybody else would put in their main suitcase, the clothes and any equipment that you might need, like your medication and things like that. But just keep in mind that if you're more than one, it's a good idea to put clothes in different suitcases, and that way there's not a stir that has to wear the lady's skirt and the lady that has to wear her husband's Bermudas because one of them didn't have their suitcase right away and they got it just 24 or 48 hours later. And that same kind of idea on your carry-on baggage, it's a very good idea to have what you need for the first 48 hours, whether it be like myself, I mentioned I need to rent a Hoyer lift when I travel. Well, I usually have the hammock with me so that way if they lose my luggage, I still have it the first 24 to 48 hours. I put medication in both bags so that if I lose my big luggage or the small bag, I still have some with me. A little clothing, just clothes just in case, usually just a t-shirt to change in case I get dirty during the travel. And I usually recommend peanuts or whatever you like for little snacks. That way, if your flight is delayed, you have something to eat, and it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg like it does in the airport. And the same thing with the water bottle. A lot of people don't know this, but we're not allowed more than 100 milliliters in the aircraft. But um, if you use your water bottle, you empty it before you go to customs. You can fill it up once you get to the other side with just the water in the water fountain. And it's not going to, again, not going to cost you an arm and a leg for a water bottle. A lot of people ask, especially people with ALS, what do I do? Can I still travel? I have oxygen, I have CPAP or anything like that. It is, again, no additional cost for anything that you have to travel with that is related to your medical situation. But also, I put the link there because it's very important to go and read more about it because there's specific for so many things. Like if you have anything that it's a lithium battery or anything like that. So look at go look at the website if you have a specific question. But just know that yes, you can travel with these devices, even with a bottle that is more than 100 milliliter, as long as it's something related to your special need because of your medical situation. And the last big point that I wanted to mention was the cruise, because that's usually the best way to travel. If you have any worries about your medical situation, if you're what's going to happen to you if you have a medical issue while you're traveling, there is doctors and nurses on cruises. There's also multilingual services, so you can someone can respond to your needs, whether it be in French, English, and many other languages, from the menu in the restaurant to anything else that you would need during your cruise. It's also a good way to travel because it's all inclusive. Once you leave, you know how much it's going to cost. You're not no surprises. You can have all sorts of prepaid options for excursions and things like that. And there is a company named Special Needs at Sea that can also deliver your lift or your chair or whatever you need to rent. It's going to be delivered directly on the cruise and on the cruise ship. Just keep in mind that sometimes when they say the transportation between the airport and the ship is included, they don't always think about the accessibility, so ask to be sure. And once you choose cruise company or cruise itinerary, keep in mind that if you want to do some of the excursions, if you want to touch the sand or the ground of the different countries you're going to be stopping at, then make sure you ask for an itinerary that includes stops with docks, because then you don't have to transfer into a smaller boat to get to the ground. So, in the end, while you're over there, while you're on your travel, make sure you enjoy your stay. Forget your problems, leave them at home. Take pictures and acknowledge good services. We're very good at complaining when it doesn't work, and we have to do it if we want it to change. But it's always good to tell people when they do a good job, because they appreciate, and then they will keep on doing a good job because they know people notice. And once you get back, that could be a good way to reach out to family and friends and say, why don't you come over for coffee? I have the pictures to share with you. During the winter or during a time that you feel sick or that you're not doing as well, well then it's definitely a good way to feel better when you relive your stay through your memories and your pictures. And why not plan your next trip now that you're back? And because they say that the people that are happy are people that have plans and that are organizing I want to again say that for me, it's not just going around the world. It's just getting out of the house and going to activities, whether it be in your own city, in your own area, or if you have the energy and the possibility, why not anywhere in the world? And I'm just going to leave you on
these words from the founder, Keroul's founder, which says, if man was able to go on the moon, we should be able to go anywhere on it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Isabelle. As usual, a very interesting and empowering presentation. Thank you so much for joining us today, Isabelle. It was lovely. I'd also like to thank the participants across the province and actually the country today for attending this webinar. We look forward to seeing you again at our next event. As a reminder, the English versions of the documents and links will be added to the archived version of the webinar, which will be available on our website in a few days. If you have any questions that surface after listening to this presentation, or even a little later if you've listened to it on demand, please don't hesitate to contact us at the coordinates indicated so that we can answer them. And please feel free to visit our website at www.sla-quebec.ca for a multitude of information and resources. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.